Streets and Scholars, Alex Alonso. I'm here with the Eastside General, FG, bringing you another banger. What's going on, FG?
Man, what's going on with it, Alex?
Man, I'm just ready to chop it up on a few issues, man. And actually, I wanted to just thank all the listeners for tapping into another amazing episode of Streets and Scholars. And I also want I want to appreciate everybody that's listening to us right now, because most of our listeners on Streets and Scholars are driving in their car right now into work or home from work.
No doubt.
A lot of them are walking their pets right now. Mm-hmm. Some of them are running on the treadmill.
No doubt. Hey, getting that exercise in, but we definitely appreciate them listening, man.
Some of them are just in the gym, just tapping in with another episode. And I want to let everybody know, if this is your first time listening to Streets and Scholars, be sure to go back and binge listen to all our episodes, because we touch on a lot of topics from episode to episode, and we revisit topics that we talked about in the past. So definitely go back and listen to episode 1 and catch up to our current episode. And if you're listening to us on Apple iTunes, actually just Apple Podcasts, give us a rating and review. If you dig the show, give us a 5-star rating. We really appreciate that. So we're ready to bring another banger, and we want to start off with a fact check. I'm gonna let you start off the fact check from the How to Rob a Rapper video from last week, or actually the week before.
Week before
we first talked about it, and they pulled up in 3 cold Chevys though.
No doubt, and at the same time we doing this, I'm working on trying to remember certain things, man, and I definitely botched the pull-up, you know what I mean? And it was a Chevy pull-up, man, that I, can't believe that I botched, man, but at the same time, I have to clear it up, So on the fact checks on the How to Rob a Rapper video, we talking about the Chevys that pulled up. It was 3 of them, YG pulled up first, Monty pulled up, and then D3 pulled up. So, let me just be clear. Mozzie did pull up in a rag 59, like you said, Alex. You know what I mean? No doubt. You know what I mean? It was D3 that was in the 58, and Mozzie pulled up in the deuce, man. But I had to clear that up just based on, I never want nobody to think my Chevy knowledge is off, because you know what I mean? It's definitely, when I went back, I said, well, let me go look back and look at this video. When I look back, I'm like, damn, how did I mess that one up? But to clear it up, Mozzie in the rag 59, D3 was in the 58, Mozzie was in the 62.
YG was in
the rag 59.
Yeah.
D3 was in the 58. Mozzie was in the 62.
Okay, out of the 58 and the 59, even though Mozzie pulled up in a hardtop 58, correct?
Mozzie?
Yeah.
Mozzie pulled up in the deuce, a hardtop deuce.
Actually, the 58 and 59 were both rags.
Okay, yes, right. No doubt.
Which one do you think is the more desirable Impala out of those 2 years, the 58 and the 59? Is it the 58 because it's the first one?
I'm going to say the 58, it was the first Impala, and a lot of youngsters can't appreciate the fins from the 59. I can, but I definitely would believe me and a lot of other people take that rag 58 over that 59.
When I go to a lot of lowrider events, though, it seems that I see people more interested in pumping up that 59.
You know what? The 59 is a classic, though, which all of them are. But at the same time, that 59 takes you back. Like I said, it was a big vehicle. You know what I mean? They slimmed it down and rounded it a little more on that 58. But it's preference. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I would take the 58, but at the same time, you give me a rag 59 right now, give me a good deal on the 59 right now, I'm definitely going to push it.
And why is it seems like the least common Impala around those years is the 1960. I don't really hear people talking about the 60.
You know what? You're absolutely right. Man, you're absolutely right. I hear the 57, 58, 59, 61. I love that 61, Alex, 62, 63, 64. I love all those. But you're right. I don't know a homie personally who had a 60. I can name people right now who had all those Chevys, not a 60.
Maybe they didn't even make an Impala in 1960.
They had to, man.
Well, sometimes they skip a year because, I have an Escalade. And I remember there was a year they didn't even make the Escalade. The Escalade came out in 98. Mm-hmm. They made another one in 99. I think they skipped 2000 or 2001. One of those years they skipped.
Let me tell you why they skipped 2000. What happened was with GM made, and I know this because I had the Yukon Denali.
Okay.
That was made to be Escalade. GMC went to Cadillac and said, this is the new Escalade we bought. Cadillac said they didn't want it. GMC said, okay, and turned around and sold it as the Denali. It sold like crazy. I bought this truck. Best truck I've ever had, Alex. I'm talking about so when the homie went and got the 2001 Escalade and pulled up on the side of my Denali, exact same truck. You know, he was like, damn, I paid $15,000 more for the exact same truck with the Cadillac emblem. It was a great truck, man. That 2001, those Escalades back then, I don't know the 99, but they were great trucks, man. I'm talking about they floated, Alex. I had one.
Yeah, the 98 and the 99 was not considered great Escalade trucks. It's the ones they made after.
The ones they made that, I guess they got it, perfected it after that. But that 2000, man, I had that the GMC Denali, and it had all the bells and whistles, the leather, the 4x4 wheel drive. I mean, it drove like a Cadillac, man, no doubt. I never forget that truck.
Yeah, they did skip. They skipped 1 year. I was just thinking maybe they skipped the 1960 Impala, but I just looked it up, and there is a 1960.
Oh, it's a 60. Yeah, it's a 60.
So I always hear.
I never hear no homie say, "I'm gonna go get me a 60."
But the then after the 58 and 59, I think the Trey and the 4 are the most desirables in the early 60s, and then the Deuce, then the Ace, right?
But like you say, right now, you know, I don't know if it's an age thing. But as I get older, the more I get older, the more, like I said, I had 2 Deuces. I had the Super Sport. I had the Impala. Loved them. But I just think, man, like right now, that Rag 61, man, it's just appealing to me. Beautiful. It's a beauty. I love it. You know, and if I could find one, man, I'm definitely going to snatch it up and, you know, try to build me another one, no doubt.
I wonder if Eazy-E's song brought more popularity to 64 back in the late 80s when he said that he was rolling down the street.
My 6'4".
In his 6'4".
You know what? I think the 4 was a staple. I think the 4 was a staple then. I think it still is. You know what I mean? The 4 was the most common, but at the end of the day, I believe it was the most desirable because it was definitely a staple in all the rap songs and all the homies, you know, in the hood. You know, the 4 was the one that everybody, man, give me a 6'4", man, give me a 6'4". And but that 6'4" was clean. I never cared for the 4 because it was square in the front and square in the back. But when my homie Flip built one, man, I'm talking about, he made me appreciate that 4 different, man. He had that mug so clean, you know. 4 was definitely a classic, legendary in the hood, no doubt.
And then after that, when you go from 65 to 69, it seems, my guess is that the 6.6 with the thin lights in the back was the most popular one from 65 to 69.
No doubt. The 65 was cool. The Rag 65 was cool. A lot of people that I know got the 66 was born in 66, you know, or like you say, dudes that got the 8s. I was born in 68, so I got an 8, homie. But they were the least desirable. I don't know why, but maybe the body shape. But at the same time, I know, like you say, from the 61 to the 64, man, those were, you know, they were staples in the, you know.
And then by the time you get to the 70 and the early 70s, it seems like Impala went into another direction with their body style.
No doubt, went into the Capris, went into the glass houses and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And like I say, you got a lot of glass house members out there that love those glass houses. I never cared for them personally.
Yeah, I didn't like those either. Yeah. Was that like 71, 72?
Yeah, 71, 72. You know what I mean? And you got the homies who they argue about which was the best year. I stay out of that glass house conversation, yeah.
So of those 3 cars in the How to Rob a Rapper video, you could easily say that those cars are probably a combined value of over $250,000, right?
Easily.
A quarter.
Combined for the 3?
Yeah, combined for the 3.
You're going to get 100 for the 58 and the 59. They rags.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and definitely going to get, yep. I could agree with that all day long.
I remember we were talking about this last week, maybe like on how the prices of these cars have just jumped. Maybe I don't know when did the jump even happen, because I don't recall. And it's not just the Impalas. I used to have a 79 Buick Regal.
Mm-hmm.
I paid $500 for it.
Right.
A 79 Buick Regal is considered like a classic now.
Well, you know what? Is anything they could turn into a rider. 79. Y'all had the 79 colors. Put the 80 front clip on it because it had the double headlights. You know what I mean? Put the gold Daytons on it. Got a picture of it right now. Rosecrans at Donnie's Car Wash. You know what I mean? So anything that these dudes can cut. turn into lowriders. These are classics, now, the Regals, the 84 Regals, 82 Regals, the 82 Coupes, 80, all these things are classics, man. And I'm glad to see that people in the community and homies and when I say homies, I mean, street dudes from everywhere bringing these cars out and getting out and rolling them, because that brings a unity. You know what I mean? The car shit, that it brings a unity, man. That when people go out and pull their cars out, it's like a little truce sometimes, where they could pull up anywhere and you're gonna catch the different races, different gangs and different stuff, and everybody just chilling. So I applaud the old school car community for sure.
Now look at these prices. I just pulled up the 1979 Buick Regal. These are stock Regals, 3,500. 7,400.
They wasn't 7,400 and brand new and 79.
4,000. Here's one. This guy's trying to get 12,000 for a 78 Buick Regal.
That's crazy.
So when did this shift happen to where the prices of all these cars just kind of went up? Because I wasn't paying attention.
I wasn't either. It slipped up under my nose. The thing about it is, what I believe is when the prices started going up on everything else, they took to the street as well. So people started putting, since the demand was low. I mean, not the demand was low. You couldn't get them. You couldn't find them. So I think that took the demand up and shit. But at the same time, these prices right now just ridiculous, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would ever pay $5,000 for a 79 Buick Regal, but that's what it looks like it's going for right now. And that Buick Regal actually looks pretty good. I remember I bought my Buick Regal for $500. Right off of Washington and Vermont, from this dude that had it in his front yard. I drove by one day and I said, "Hey, how much you want for it?" $500. Got it, fixed it up, loved it, and I would roll a Buick Regal right now, but I don't know about paying $7,000.
No doubt. I brought one. I bought my '79 Cutlass for $300 in the hood. Knocked on the lady door, asked her if she want to sell it. She gave it to me for $300. Went to pick apart, put all the pieces together. By the time I got it rolling, brand new tires and all that, but it was 5 different colors, Alex. I never forget. You know what I mean? And I had it parked in the hood. All it needed was the paint. The motor was good. The tire, everything was cool. All I needed was the paint. It was 5 different colors, man.
I'm going to post a picture of my 79 Buick Regal on the Instagram page. We got an Instagram for those who don't know. It's street.and.scholars. Streets and Scholars, with 2 periods in there. I'm going to post a picture of my 79 Buick Regal. Do you have a picture of your 79?
I'm going to send you a picture of my 79.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put that up there. So, all right, that's first fact check. I got another fact check. Last week we talked about 2 brothers who had their convictions overturned on the new law that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, signed regarding the use of rap lyrics in criminal court cases. Gary Bryant and Diallo Jackson had their murder convictions overturned. They were convicted back in, I believe, 2014. And I said that these guys were free. But it turns out they got their murder convictions overturned, and it looks like the county, Contra Costa County, might refile on them. They haven't released them yet.
Right.
It's just they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. So
no doubt. I kind of figured that, though, was going to come down the pipe. You know what I mean? I think if it was a lesser crime, maybe some robberies or something like that, they probably would have let them got up out of there. But, when you're talking about murder, man, they're going to find a way to double back. And, I'm trying to see if they're going to work a deal with them, which would be in their best interest. Because nowadays, if you go with the jury and you go back to trial and you see some of the evidence, it might not turn out the same for them. So it may be in their best interest to just offer these dudes deals with maybe some little more time or something. How long they been gone?
They've been gone for almost a decade. 2014, they got arrested. They were found guilty in 2017 or 2018. They've been in custody for 8 years already.
Right. So the thing about it is, I don't believe that they going to own a murder. I don't believe they just going to come and say, okay, man, we going to let y'all out. What I can say is they weighing their options, I think, my opinion, to retry this with the jury of today. With the jury of the internet, the jury of, more information, the jury of what they know about today, they may not get those same convictions, So do we go back and just be like, listen, man, we going to offer y'all a dub, on this case. Y'all go do 10 more and leave it at that. I believe they weighing all those options, if you ask me.
Yeah, they actually got stretched out. I looked up their release date. 2033 was their first eligible parole date. So what's that? Another 10 That's about another 11 years. But they're both still in the CDC. Diallo Jackson is in Solano. I looked him up. And Gary Bryant is in Salinas Valley. But they're going to bring them back down to the county jail at some point to figure out what they're going to do. And I'm sure they got lawyers filing motions to say, hey, release these guys on OR. But if you want to refile. But, give these guys an opportunity to enjoy that they had their convictions overturned. But at the same time, they allege to have killed somebody. So, I'm sure the victims' families is like, nah, don't let these guys out at all.
No doubt. Like I say, if it wasn't a murder, I believe that they would at least be out until they retry him. But we're going to see how this pan out.
Yeah. All right. So we got an update on these. We talked about this whole L.A. City Council corruption, man, that's going on. With those 3 council members that were recorded saying some crazy racist and offensive stuff. It turns out that conversation took place at the Labor Federation building. It didn't take place on City of Los Angeles property. Mm-hmm. We thought maybe it would have been City Hall.
Right.
But they were visiting Ron Herrera's place, which is the Labor Federation of Los Angeles. So somebody in that organization was the ones that recorded the conversation. And apparently that person, whoever recorded it, we still don't know who recorded it, had it out for Ron Herrera, the head of the labor union there. It really wasn't about the 3 council members.
Right, wow.
And this person's been sitting on this audio for a year. Did you know this was a year old?
I did.
I didn't know it was a year old.
I knew it was a year old, but at the same time, the only thing I thought about when I did find out it was a year old was based on this. Damn, we let you get away with having this kind of feeling for a whole year before we was able to bring it to, or they were able to bring it to the forefront. So yeah, I knew it was a year old, but sometimes it should take time, man. And I believe she was just as arrogant as she was back then, though.
Yeah, but this person been sitting on this audio for a minute, like whether or not they were gonna put it out. We still don't have all the answers, but to sit on this thing for a year is kind of crazy because what made you want to release it now in 2022 when you recorded it in 2021? There's a bigger story to this that we don't know yet.
Well, it could be, but at the same time, based on when you doing shit, you got to go back and look at the legal ramifications of you hiding a device to record people. Everybody don't know the legal ramifications of this legal or not. So at some point, they may have had in their mind that they wanted to try to extort somebody, make somebody step down with the understanding that we got this. You know what I mean? So there's so many dynamics that kind of went on. And then at the end of the day, when somebody said we not budging, they could have just said, you know what, forget it. We going all out. So it could have been a few dynamics to that though.
Yeah. So we got 2 council members that have still not have stepped down. That would be Gil Cedillo and Kevin Deleon. These guys are holding out. I don't know what they're waiting for.
No doubt, you know what I mean. Sometimes though, that people know that people forget some shit sometimes.
Yeah.
They trying to wait you out to make you forget and go on about your daily life and forget that this will ever happen while they still stay in there. But it's people at they front steps, protesting, going to their house, you know what I mean? So I'm hoping that they stay with that energy till these guys get up out of there.
Yeah, they're actually at Kevin Deleon's house right now with tents out on the street. And since this is already part of the public record, he lives on a street called La Roda, Laroda, in the Eagle Rock section of Los Angeles. And he has a small house over there that's just 1,200 square feet. I looked up his house on Zillow. 1,200 square foot house that he paid $980,000 for just last year.
Damn.
In 2021. So my thinking is that he doesn't want to give up his city council job because he makes $207,000 a year, and he just bought this house for basically $1 million. So he's got a heavy mortgage to pay every month. So maybe he's just like, nah, I can't afford to step down from this job right now.
No doubt, but let me ask you this, Alice: who can enforce him to though? Like, is it a council? Is it who can make him step down?
Nobody.
Nobody.
He's elected.
He's elected.
Only the people that voted him in
Can just vote him out.
They got to vote him out. So we got to wait.
How much more time he has on his contract?
He's got another. I think the next election for him is in either the end of 2023 or 2024. So he's got a minute to be in his job still. But Gil Cedillo actually just lost his seat in June, but he's allowed to stay in his seat till December, until the new council member comes in. The new council member is a girl named Eunice Hernandez, who's an activist here in LA that I've actually met before. I actually interviewed her on the channel. I was surprised that she ran for City Council District 9. No, that's not 9. That's Council District 1. And she beat Gil Cedillo. So he's technically he's on his way out.
Right. But still, he could collect the checks up until November then.
Yeah, so he actually has 2 more checks.
Yeah.
And these checks are about what, $17,000 each.
No doubt.
Let me do the math on that. If I don't know how good your math is, $207,000 a year. What is that a month? You think?
I don't know. Divided by 12, man.
Yeah. So he's still got a couple of checks left, and he's probably saying to himself, "Look, I'm already voted out. $17,250 a month."
Right. So he's trying to grab that 34 before he bounces.
Yeah, he wants that 34,000, and then he's probably gonna say, "All right, I'm gone."
That's crazy. Man.
But Kevin Deleon is not going. I don't think he's gonna bow out that easily.
No, well, I think they're gonna go to the extreme measures to end up getting him out, because the city of Los Angeles and his protesters are making sure, man, that they stay on this case, and they're going to figure out a way to make sure he get up out of there.
Well, because he's an elected official, it's going to be very difficult. I got a clip here from Mitch O'Farrell, who became the new LA City Council president after Nury Martinez stepped down, and this is what he had to say on this was NBC News. Let me see here. Let's play this clip.
We begin this difficult and heavy meeting by saying that the resignation of Councilwoman Martinez is the right first step, and to also say that Council members Cedillo and Deleon must follow suit. We stand with the people of Los Angeles. As I have said earlier, the wound is deep, the harm is vast, the transgressions are of a profound significance. In order for us to move forward with the people of Los Angeles, we need 2 more resignations.
Nury Martinez's resignation is what we hope is the beginning of the end.
That's Curran Price. He's the black council member that's in charge of Council District 9 of the East Side. And we've been waiting for one of the 3 black council members to say something. So this is him talking right now. Finally, someone black said something from the LA City Council.
And the end of a nightmare that she, along with Kevin Deleon and Gil Cedillo, created for our city. Their racist, derogatory, and insensitive comments deep cut into the soul of the city of Los Angeles. It's unforgivable, and the damage they have done is reprehensible. This is a time for reckoning and reflection, but more importantly, action. Forgiveness requires more than an apology of empty words. The people of LA have spoken. No healing can begin until each of the individuals who have grossly misplayed our trust are gone. Everything we say and do has consequences, and whether in public or behind closed doors. Accountability and integrity are the very foundation of leadership, and our city deserves nothing less. In order for us to govern and handle the people's business, I'll repeat, we need Kevin and Gil to listen to their conscience, own their mistakes, and do what's morally right.
Okay, that was Curran Price, Council District number 9. Man, was he hard enough, or was he kind of too gentle?
I got his point. You know what I mean? And he said what he said, but at the same time, I feel these dudes need to get a line pressed harder on them. You know what I mean? So these dudes is not getting what they need, but I believe the other council members are playing it safe. Don't play it safe. These dudes disrespected everybody in the city and county of Los Angeles. Y'all need to make that shit right. Go get at these dudes face to face. Pull up on them yourself. step down, dog, get up out of here, bounce. They need to all the members need to get together and really be forceful on their resignation.
Well, that's going to be easier said than done, being that no one can force them out. There's no boss. There's no person that could terminate them. The mayor doesn't have the power.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The police chief doesn't have the power. I mean, it's an elected position. So the other way you can get out is, or get kicked out, is if there's a recall election against you. So there's no time to do that for Gil Cedillo, because he's going to be out.
You can do it for Deleon.
You can do it for him, and that would be embarrassing, though, to have to put the city through that. But I think it might come down to that, man. But, we really didn't talk about this, but they were having a meeting on how to draw districts for the city of L.A. I guess it's coming to a point where they got to redraw the districts, and redrawing that districts could be racially sensitive for some people, because you could draw a district where you could make black people that live in a certain area have less voting power and give more voting power to the Latinos in that same area, depending on where you draw the lines. And that's what this whole meeting was about. And no one's really talking about that. We talking about the stuff they said that was racist. But how are y'all going to draw the lines for the council districts for the next map that was coming out? That's crazy that no one's really bringing that up.
No, you got a great point there, and I didn't even think about that. But at the same time, they definitely that definitely could have happened. So, yeah, we got to keep your eye on that, Alex.
Yeah, there's a term called gerrymandering, and gerrymandering is a way to take a population, let's say, for example, of black folks that live in a big area, and if you don't put a line through their neighborhood, they have a lot of power to vote. But if you split them and put half of them in another district, the other half in this district, you just watered down their power.
Right.
And that's what I believe Nury Martinez was trying to do. We won't never know, because they never got to the point of doing it. But I heard that the federal government is going to investigate whether or not they were involved in some shady map drawing at some point. And I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that she was. All right, next, YNW Melly, there's no update on his trial.
No, we ain't heard nothing from Melly.
Nah, nothing. He was supposed to been going to trial.
Yeah.
And did you hear about Gunna from the, the YSL Georgia indictment? Gunna was denied bail a third time, just like Young Thug was denied.
No doubt, but I also heard he had some people advocating for him, and it still didn't work. So it's crazy, man, that they won't get those guys a bail in those cases. But at the same time, I think the informants in those cases put up a pretty good fight on why they shouldn't get out, according to the dudes that's informing. You know what I mean? So I believe that the judge and the prosecutor is believing, most of the information that they's getting from the people who's telling. But man, I thought everybody was available, or not available, but eligible for a bail. You know what I mean?
Well, Gunna is definitely eligible for bail. His name is Sergio Kitchens. And one of these informants is a liar, straight up lie. I was reading what his attorney, he's got an attorney named Attorney Sadow, Sadow. He wrote, after this denial of this third bail denial, he wrote a motion, and he said, "We now know for certain that the state's last-minute assertion that the third bond hearing, that there was a text message, which was not disclosed to Gunna, that between two individuals, which did not include Gunna, where one person offered to murder another person on Kitchens' behalf, this text message turned out to be completely untrue."
Damn.
So initially, the judge was using these text messages to say, "Hey, there's some, you guys are talking some crazy stuff, so I'm going to deny your bail." But apparently, the attorney found out that these text messages never even happened. So he's pissed.
No doubt. He should be pissed. You know what I mean? When you get to talking about misinformation in a case where you're not giving me all my rights to, fight my case, then hell yeah, I would be pissed.
Yeah, Gunna was denied bail on May 23rd, then on July 7th, and then just a few days ago, being the third time, And I want to play. This is crazy. When the judge denied his bail, Judge Ural Glanville, Gunna had his family in the audience, and they reacted when they denied his bail. Let me play this clip so you can hear this. It's crazy.
All right, Mr. Sadow, anything, sir?
Sadow, that's his attorney. Steve Sadow is the attorney for Gunna. Let's see here. What's going on here? Sorry about that. Let me play it back.
All right, Mr. Sadow, anything, sir?
Hey, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, all right. Here's where the court's kind of, where I think all of you are kind of stuck between. There is the standard for bond, which is the preponderance of the evidence, and then there is, and that proffers are authorized by our state Supreme Court for bond. They are not offered or not authorized unless otherwise agreed to for trial, and that strict burden or strict proof is required for that particular proffer as a result to a issue of proof at trial. So we're stuck in between the two burdens in this case. We also acknowledge the fact that the defendants are presumed to be innocent, and this particular system authorizes the court to consider bond based on statute as well as case law, and I have done so in this particular case, and will continue to do so. The other challenge that our imperfect system kind of just hasn't figured out a way to kind of deal with, other than reconsidering the issue of bond and changing circumstances of bond, is acknowledged for proof that may or may not come at trial, but the state bears that burden at this point in time. And it's not a perfect system in the sense that we won't know until that time whether or not many of these statements that have been proffered by the state come to pass or come to fruition. That's no consultation or consolation for your client, Mr. Sadow. And but unfortunately, that's the best that the system can offer at this point in time, given the status of the case law and the like. The only thing I can potentially do is, like I said, I will try the cases expeditiously as possible. But at this point in time, I don't find any change in circumstances that would allow me to, or move me from changing my decision as to bond. And if anybody's in the gallery and you can't otherwise control yourself, or otherwise you want to make any appropriate comments, then you can leave at this point in time. No harm will come, or nothing else will occur. But if you remain in this courtroom and make any outbursts, I'll have you arrested.
So that was Gunna's family in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And this judge has a way with words. He's basically saying, look, I don't know if these statements are true or not. They're probably not true. But at this point, I'm gonna base denying bail, even though some of this stuff might not be true. And so, of course, the family's pissed.
No doubt, man. He really kind of filed for that,
Yeah.
because I'm sure he didn't got information that some of that shit wasn't true. You know what I mean? But at the same time, he's still going to go with his gut feeling. He's still going to go with, in his mind, protecting the community before I let some wild and loose in the community. But at the same time, man, you got your right to your due diligence, and I just feel like they ain't giving his fair shot,
No, they're not. Immediately, his attorney, Steven Sadow, filed another motion basically saying that the judge just didn't make a decision based on the evidence. And I actually reached out to the attorney to get there's a 7-page motion that Gunna's attorney filed, and I emailed him before we went live on this episode of Streets and Scholars. And right now, he just emailed me back with his filing, which was filed October 17th. So he just emailed this to me. It's a 7-page, and I wish I got this earlier, but this is his disgust. I'm assuming that he's just frustrated with the way that the judge is using the state's evidence to deny Gunna bail, because if none of these text messages and none of these allegations are true, then the judge doesn't have any basis to deny bail.
No doubt. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And he's still at it though, you know, and maybe he's come back and say later, well, you know, hey, I wanted to be more safe than sorry. But seemed like, you know, he got the word that some of these allegations wasn't all the way, you know, 100%. And I think it's wrong, homie.
Yeah, and I'm going to post this 7-page motion filed on behalf of Sergio Kitchens, aka Gunna. I'm going to post this on my Street Gangs website, streetgangs.com, for any other people that are interested in knowing what the attorney wrote. But he's disappointed in the judge's decision based on a lack of evidence. So that's a Gunna update. And hey, the guy that is accused of being involved in PNB Rock's homicide, the father, Freddie Trone, he is in LA custody as of this week.
Oh, okay.
So he's sitting in LA County. Yeah. I don't know what the process is or how long it takes to get extradited from one state to the next state, but he's in LA now, and his bail is $3 million. So it's a hefty bail, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
I was told that you don't always need 10%. Some bonds will take less than 10%. So 10% of this would be $300,000
Yeah, that
cash.
still be one. Who got that laying around?
But what if they'll take 2%? You know, what if they'll take 5%? Would be $150,000. You could pull that out of a house if you got equity.
Well, this is what I'm thinking. You know, just based on him being in jail allegedly for this crime. I don't know. Even if they went 1%, do you got 30 racks somewhere? You know, or who gonna put together 30 racks? If you know what I mean. You know, you never know. That's still something that people maybe couldn't come up if they said 1%. You know, even if you came with the 1%, I would believe that you still would need some of the equity or some proof that you can provide. You know, even the 3% or the 4% or up to the 10%. But at the same time, that's still $30,000 to go get him cash. You know, I don't know if that could be done.
Well, I'm hearing that bail bonds people are taking less than 10, like 5, 4, 3. So let's say, okay, 1% is 30,000.
Right.
He's got to have an auntie that has a house, you know. Or,
but is auntie willing to put that up? See, that's the thing about it with us dudes, as the street dudes is in the street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody not willing to put up for you, especially if you incarcerated. You know what I mean? You know, everybody not willing to put theirs on the line, even if you're right, even if they know you didn't do it. Some people can't take the chance of, you know, putting their property up or putting their money up, you know, in a situation with a street dude. That's just honest. That's just how it is sometimes.
No, definitely. I remember when Alex Sanchez caught his murder case here in Los Angeles, the guy, former MS, who was an activist. A California politician named Tom Hayden, who's arrested now, he just passed a couple years ago. Tom Hayden had worked with Alex Sanchez on some activist stuff, and Tom Hayden was a state senator. Mm-hmm. When he heard that Alex Sanchez got arrested for a murder, he immediately said he's innocent. And that dude put up his house and bailed Alex Sanchez out, which is crazy. Yeah. But he ended up beating the case too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, that makes sense. Maybe he just really had some faith in the guy.
Yeah.
But that's rare, Alex.
No doubt. It's rare. But I mean, everybody got a granny or an auntie or a family member that does have some property where you could easily pull out. With the values of our homes in California right now, everybody got at least 30,000 equity in the house.
Man, I don't think everybody got a grandmother that's gonna put themselves in that situation for you. You know what I mean? You know, a lot of times we get caught with these crimes. Our people know what kind of people you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And my grandmother put her house up for me before.
Oh, okay.
And think about it, 10 years later when she went to refi or do something to it, that hole came back up and we had to go back and revisit it and fix it. And, you know, but I beat my case, you know, but she had put it up for me to get on out. Me personally, I had an uncle who was a bail bondsman. My mother's brother was a bail, had his own bail bondsman shop right across the street from the Venice LAPD station over there.
You talking about Wilshire Division on Venice?
Yeah, right on Venice,
Yeah,
right across the street. It was a bail bonds across there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And back in the day, so when I went to jail, man, you know, he'd be Johnny on the spot. Sometimes he'd make me wait, though. I didn't like that shit. You know what I mean? I call him at night. He gonna make me wait till in the morning. Man, I'm trying to get out today. I can call somebody else. I got to, you know, we not doing nothing illegal. I'm providing you with the same shit, but I'd rather give you the money than to give it to somebody else. But at the same time, everybody is not willing to put their shit. Me right now. You know what I mean? Depending on what my sons go to, man, I ain't putting my house up for something. Man, get the fuck out of here. I'm going to just be one to let one of my daughters go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let that baby boy go, you know, because I'm knowing that it's something, you know, they not out on no BS. You know what I mean? You know, but you really, it's really like that sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So when you had your uncle as a bail bondsman over there across the street from Wilshire Division, I guess it was convenient then, huh?
Oh, it was convenient, man. I go to jail, man. Call Unc, you know what I mean? And I never forget when I was fighting Torrance, man, and we fighting Torrance, man, and I get a dismissal. Get a dismissal on Friday, and Frank called me, say, hey, man, they gonna refile. He called me Monday. Hey, man, we got to do it again. He say, so they asking for a new bail. They asking you for, he said, but what we going to do is we going to go ask the judge, you know, since you already out, can you put your bond up without having to go back in custody and do all that stuff over? I had my uncle bring the bond to court when we went to ask, when I turned myself in to the court, we asked the judge, you know, can we just pay the bond right there and I never have to go back in custody? You know what I mean? And the judge in Torrance, man, said, listen, man, this guy, man, was here at every court date. He didn't miss a court date. He was on time every time. I'm not even finna issue a bond. You know what I mean? I'm going to give him an OR.
Wow.
Only OR I ever had in my life. He said, I'm going to give him an OR and we going, hey, let's go. And I didn't even need he came with $100,000 bond just to cover whatever we needed. And we didn't even, man, I got an OR, man. I fought that case again in Torrance, man.
I remember in the 80s, getting an OR was like a dream.
Yeah, I never had one from the jail, though. But from that day, I was able to, he didn't make me do another bail, man.
I remember everybody in the LA County Jail who had a new case. They're going to court, and everybody saying, man, I hope I can get an OR. I hope I can get an OR. 99% of the people ain't getting no OR.
Man, you ain't getting no OR, man. You had to have a squeaky clean record, all that shit. You know, a family foundation, you know, been in the same house for years. But yeah, it was a little convenient, man. When I go to jail, I have him call Unc, man, and that was his job. He was gonna come do his thing.
So whatever happened to his business?
He got older, man, and just moved on. You know, he stayed there for a while, for years. He did it, and what he ended up doing, Unc, you know, that's my mother's big brother. So
yeah.
You know, Unc just got old and retired, and when you know, chilled out.
I probably drove by his spot 100 times because
no doubt,
that's
no
like
doubt.
right in the neighborhood.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You know, he was right there. You know, so.
So yeah, having that access though is I can imagine how convenient it is because they have great relationships with the jail. I don't know if they have special ID, but you know they have access to the county jail and to the jails, and everyone knows who they are in those circles, so they could easily make moves quick and easy.
No doubt, but the problem was when you call Unc now, everybody know you done went to jail. You know what I mean? You know, because I go to jail. My grandmother and aunties ain't know I'm out on bail. Or they didn't know my personal shit. You know what I mean? You know, you call Unc, you know what I mean? You know, I got to go get nephew, the whole family calling, this boy done went to jail again. And, you know, so it's a drawback to it, you know what I mean? But it was all good. I appreciated Unc for all the help he gave me, man. He looked out.
I always wondered if bail bond is a profitable business to go into, but it must be very stressful too because you're dealing with it's a job full of drama 9 to 5, right?
Well, I'm gonna tell you the thing that he complained about a lot is when you start having the big companies and the corporations start doing bail bonds, and you start having bail bonds like franchises like Aladdin. You know what I mean? And I know for sure right now Aladdin is doing 1%. You know what I mean? So you can't compete with some of these 1% people when you was a 10% company trying to stay afloat. You know, don't forget if somebody run, you still only got 1% from these people to go chase them. You know, that don't even add up. You know, so I think kind of that drove him out as well. You know, when the big companies came in and said, man, no, we're going to give 1% bails. Let them pay payments, you know, and things of this nature. You know what I mean? So I know for sure right now, letting 1% on certain cases, your man's coming home, you know?
I mean, that's good and it's bad because it's bad for the mom and pops that have the business.
That was my point. Yeah.
But it's good for the homies because they're like, hey, I don't need to come up with that much money.
That much. No doubt. Shit was good for, hey, man, you know, it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. But at the same time, yeah, I think that's what drove some of them smaller bail bonds places out of business.
Well, we'll find out if Freddie Trone has any money, because if he does, I'm sure he's going to try to bail out on this $3 million bail, because I was expecting for him to have a higher bail, something that is unattainable. But 1% of $3 million, $30,000. As you said, these corporations will definitely pay it. It's just a matter, can he put the 30,000 racks together and maybe get grandma or auntie or somebody
no
there.
No doubt.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the update on him. And he doesn't have a court date. I looked him up in the system. It's because he just got extradited from Nevada, so they haven't put a court date in there for him. But I'm gonna be following up on him. So let's get to our first topic, man. I wanted to talk to you about Dublin Prison. Mm-hmm. Dublin Prison, all-female federal prison here in Northern California, is it?
I'm gonna say central, but yeah, you could call it northern. No, that's northern. That's up towards Oakland. Yeah.
See, they had a scandal at Dublin Prison about a year, I'd say early 2021, last year, where 4 employees, 2 COs, a warden, and a chaplain,
Damn.
we're all having sex with the female inmates.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I believe that. Yeah, I can believe that 100%.
Is this something that if you were in federal custody at another prison would hear about through the grapevine?
Oh, no doubt. Or, you know, let me tell you something. Stuff get out faster than, you know, somebody got a sister up there. Somebody got an auntie up there. Somebody didn't already know that what really goes on up there, but it just don't surprise us. You know what I mean? So it's nothing that's going to make our ears prick up, because this shit happens all the time. You know what I mean? And in most of the prisons.
So if this is happening all the time, and Dublin just, they got exposed for having 4 employees having sex with female inmates, how often does this happen where it never gets out?
Well, I believe it happened more often than not, you know, especially when it's male guards, female prisoners. You know, say at the women camps and stuff like that. It's going down at the men's prison where the guards is, you know, pulling up on the inmates. You know what I mean? So think about when you get to a female prison, man, you got all this. Oh, man, I mean, it's hotter than a July, you know, at certain times for some of these women, man. So at the end of the day, they just beg and plead. Look, I promise you I won't tell. You know what I mean? And you like, you know, and most men aren't used to being begged for sex, you know what I mean? You know, and if a female say, man, listen, man, my brother gonna send you $500 to break me off, you know, you in a position now. Hold on, you know, you got something I already kind of want, and your brother gonna send me $500. Man, this shit is real out here, Alex.
Yeah, I remember back in the 90s, I started a website for I wanted to link people on the internet to inmates and have pen pals. And then somehow a bunch of female prisoners started writing to me and say, hey, put me on your site. I want pen pals. And I said, send photos. And I started looking at all these women that are in prison. I was like, damn, this woman's fine.
Yeah, no doubt.
This woman's beautiful.
Yeah.
What's she doing in prison?
No doubt.
So I would post their pictures on there and their address, and they would get all kind of mail. People would write to them. I was just shocked at how many attractive women were in prison.
Nah, man, they in there, man. Like I say, you know, they have needs too, Alex. You know what I mean? So, you know, the guard is the first thing that, you know, they trying to take them down just like a male inmate trying to take down a woman guard. You know, it's ferocious, you know. And but can you blame them? You know what I mean? Like I say, they in prison, they have needs, they, you know, horny as fuck, you know, they trying to do they shit.
Blame who? The women for letting the guards have sex with them, or
no,
the guard for
trying? Can you blame the women for wanting to have sex with the guard?
Nah, because at some point they just like, if they're doing 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, at some point they're gonna desire sexual contact.
No doubt, but at the same time, you know, it's supposed to be an integrity thing when this is your job. You're supposed to go in here with integrity, do your job, no matter how tempted it is. You know what I mean? Gas $7 and some change right now. You know what I mean? I drive around probably 27 to 36,000 gallons a night at my job. You know what I mean? And you mean to tell me I can't get 20 gallons? I can't get 5 gallons, 20 gallons out of it? It's an integrity thing.
Yeah.
Don't cross my mind. You know, they pay me enough to go get my own gas. So that's how this thing is. You know what I mean? You in here, you doing a job. You know what I mean? You supervising these inmates. You know. That's what the job's supposed to be. You know, now, do men get weak? No doubt. Do women get weak? At a men's prison? No doubt. It does happen. In a women's prison, it happens more often than you think, though, Alex.
Yeah, I'm not that surprised. But I am about this Dublin case, though. I'm surprised that the chaplain was having sex with a female inmate and the warden as well. I expect the COs to do this, but I don't expect the warden.
I didn't expect the warden just based on what's on the line for you, man. You know, hard as you worked, you had to work and put some work in order to get to this position. You know what I mean? Wardens make a pretty decent amount of money to go home and take care of their families. You know, and to put it on the line, you know, it's been done for more, Alex, to be honest with you, but it is surprising just based on, damn, the warden? Like, y'all wasn't leaving no stone unturned. Everybody in there was going up, huh?
Yeah. So how do you think these things go down? Because back in 2021, the feds charged all 4 of these guys with sexual assault. And I'm not sure if really an assault happened, but there are some allegations where these 4 employees of Dublin would tell women to strip, get naked, take your clothes off, take pictures of them. It seems like maybe there was some lines crossed where it wasn't 100% consensual.
No doubt.
But it seems as most of the time it's probably consensual sex between the Dublin employees and the female inmates of the prison.
Well, then you have to flip it like this, though. You know what I mean? When they go out to these visits and they getting, say, marijuana because they like to smoke too, and they want to sell a little bit in order to keep some food in they cell. You know what I mean? And you coming back from that visit, and that CO finds that marijuana. Now the thing about it is, you're not gonna see this where it clashed at when I just was thinking about this scenario. Say you got caught bringing some marijuana, some weed in the prison. Don't tell. I'll do this. But at the same time, I'm almost guaranteed that when you getting strip search coming from visit or you getting strip searches anytime, it's not by mail. You get me? They got women that's gonna do that part. You know what I mean? They not gonna violate your constitutional rights like that and have a man strip searching women. We won a class action lawsuit in San Bernardino for that exact same thing, and we won, and we got paid for it. You know, they felt that they was stripping us. The men were stripping us in front of female sheriff's deputy, and somebody filed a class action lawsuit. You know what I mean? Since I was there at that time, they sent us money. You know what I mean? But at the same time, so I don't think that could be the situation. I'm just thinking that these men are going to work at these units. These females is hitting on them like they, like men do women on the street. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. And sometimes it just, this dude may have never seen a female that's pretty, never seen a female that's beautiful, never seen it, and just couldn't help himself. I mean, it happens.
Well, the warden that was having sex with some of the inmates there, his name is Ray J. Garcia. He was 55 years old. The chaplain, now the prison chaplain is supposed to be a religious figure, right?
No doubt.
Okay. This chaplain, James Theodore Highhouse, he's also implicated in this 2021 case. And then Ross Klinger was a CO at Dublin that already pled guilty to all the allegations. It's just bizarre that this is what's going on in our federal facility. But let me flip the script on this. Now we fast forward to 2022. Just recently, one of the female inmates that was having sex at this prison, she's not identified in her complaint, but she's now suing the BOP for rape.
Now, let me ask you this. Is she at home already or is she still in custody?
Well, we don't even know.
Don't say, yeah.
We don't even know her name because she's using initials in this complaint.
Right.
So I think that she heard about the indictments of these 4 employees, and then whether she's free or not free, I think she's trying to maybe get a check because she was one of the women that these guys were having sex with.
No doubt. I mean, I'm almost 95% sure that the allegations that she pushing is some bullshit. You know what I mean? Because one thing about it is a dude that at a federal prison with all women, one thing you don't have to do is rape a motherfucker. That's what I believe in my heart. You know what I mean? They throwing that shit at you. You know what I mean? So why I'ma rape you? You know what I mean? You know, so at the end of the day, but like I say, we all know that in this society, you can get sued for everything. You know, we talked about that. Somebody will sue you for everything. I think it's a money grab. I think she lying. You know what I mean? Just based on, you know, come on, man.
Well, Klinger, one of the CEOs that already pled guilty, he's accused of having illegal sex with 3 women at Dublin in 2020, but not raping any of them.
Right. Illegal is one thing, and they only putting the word illegal in there because you supposed to be upholding your job. You supposed to have some integrity for the job, you know, and you having sex with inmates. Okay, I can go for that. Y'all threw the word illegal in there, but like you say, it wasn't no rape though, bro. And I don't think none of them was.
But I think that the woman has a case regardless because there was a level of abuse of power. It might not have been forced sex or forced rape, but it might have been sexual assault or sexual abuse because these employees ain't supposed to be doing this in the first place.
Yeah, but that don't make it abuse though. That don't make it abuse of power, but not a sexual abuse or a sexual assault. It's hard for me to agree with that.
What do you mean? Explain that, because
the way I'm saying it. Okay, say abuse of power is one thing. If saying we gonna charge you with this having sexual relations with an inmate, we gonna charge you with abuse of power, I could understand that. But when you go on record to say sexual assault means, you know, ruffling some feathers, taking something, you know, blackmailing somebody into doing something that they don't want to do. I don't know if these apply.
Well, statutory rape doesn't could be consensual. It's still called rape because you're having sex with if you're 20 years old having sex with a 15-year-old, that's considered statutory rape.
Okay, it's statutory, but
it's not a physical rape.
But is it sexual assault? It's statutory rape.
But it's a form of sexual assault because you're having illegal sex with a minor, and the state will call that statutory rape, even though the girl gave you consensual sex.
And when you talk about statutory rape, do assault comes to your mind though?
It doesn't, but legal, not me thinking the way I think,
right?
But legally, it is a form of assault.
So they could possibly have that term, statutory rape, sexual assault, all those charges under one.
I believe so, because when you think of rape, you think of force, right? You think of someone taking it.
Well, when you talk about statutory rape, to me, it's a term. It means you basically had sex with somebody that was too young to be, you know, having sex with you. You know what I mean? Some of it should be called statutory misconduct just based on, because all of it ain't rape.
I kind of feel like calling consensual sex with a minor rape is a little over the top.
No doubt. That's what I'm saying.
But they call it that legally.
And they call it that legally. You know what I mean? And that's the cold thing about it, the way they word some of this stuff. Even though, let me be clear, you shouldn't be fucking having no sex with no minor if you over the age of 18 anyway. So don't think I'm fighting for the dude who did this the disgusting shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? You know, but I'm just saying, I do know you know 16-year-old having sex with an 18-year-old, and it was consented. The rape part of just the name rape part of punishing. It's just the name rape part of it. Just you know, kind of be like, damn.
So you take an issue at this anonymous woman that was in Dublin prison now suing, claiming physical rape.
I do. Yeah. You know, I take issue with that.
What percent are you confident that none of these CEOs physically raped any of these female inmates? You
know what? You can't say that. I'm the type of dude that I can't rule out shit that happens. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna say, man, I give it an 80-20 that she wasn't raped. Because you can't have somebody to come in there. She could have been so bad, homie ass so fat, and he just couldn't help it and figure she wasn't going to tell. It's always a possibility. So I'm not going to be naive or just try to play women like that to say it couldn't happen. But I do believe at some point it's a money grab. You know what I mean? On the lawsuit side of it, you know what I mean? Than it is a assault side of it. You know?
I would be very disappointed if we find out that She was the one that instigated the sex. She was completely cool with it. But then after the feds came in there and charged everybody, she was like, maybe I can use this as an opportunity to sue the BOP now.
No doubt. And then sometimes people ain't suing for money, especially if she's still in there. Sometimes they'll come with a little sweeter deal, like, look, man, to sweep this all under the rug, that's what we willing to do, readjust his sentence. Hey, man, people doing all kind of shit for money and to get up out of jail, believe me.
Yeah, I would like to know if she's still in custody, but it's almost impossible to find out because the lawsuit that was filed on her behalf by an attorney doesn't identify her name, just uses her initials.
Right.
So that's a little disappointing that we don't even know her identity. Her identity in the complaint is MR.
Mm-hmm.
So we know those are her initials, and we know her attorney is Jessica Pride from San Diego. So maybe I'll tap in with the attorney, and maybe I'll send the attorney an email and see if I can get some information on.
I'm thinking if they haven't released her name, I'm thinking she's still in custody.
Yes,
because I believe that if she was out, she's a grown woman. They usually wouldn't have no problem releasing the name of the person that was being assaulted. They do it in every other case, you know.
Well, they're alleging that Klinger, the CEO, promised to marry 2 of these women that he was having sex with in Dublin. I mean, that's just game he's running on them.
Yeah, but shit, did you get mad because you figured out he was lying or something? You know what I mean? And now I'm going to tell on him because he lying. He's supposed to marry me and shit. You know what I mean? It's a whole lot of dynamics with that prison sexual sex shit.
That's some hell of a game, though, for the CEO to say, look, when you get out, I'm going to marry you.
Well, you know, I do know CEOs that then got out and did settle down and had kids by inmates.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So shit happens, Alex, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so there is a possibility.
No, there's definitely a possibility. But listen like this. You got a guy who's, you know, man, I've actually had a CEO, man, call me to the office one time, man. He used to see my wife come in all the time. He used to show her little special little privileges and shit, put her at the front of the line, little shit like that, right? So one time, I remember, I catch him, he in my cell searching. They got to search, say, 10 cells a day per se. That's part of their job, search 10 cells a day. He never took nothing. Never took no onion, never took no such stuff I wasn't supposed to have that he could have easily took. Nothing major, but didn't take no food that came from the kitchen that I shouldn't have had, you know. One time, you know, he in my cell, Alex, and they hit the alarm. Some shit had happened in another unit or on the yard to where when they call the deuces. When they hit the deuces, you lock down your unit, and that CO from our unit got to run out and support whatever going on the yard. So does the case managers, the unit managers, everybody got to run and aid the situation. He was in my cell looking at my wife's pictures in my photo album. I didn't even have these in the photo. I had them in a little envelope. He didn't have time to put them back. You know what I mean? So he was in my cell. You know, my wife know about it too. And she said she feel creepy every time she came after that. Cause I said, hey, you was looking at your pictures and shit. But he always treated her nice and shit, put her at the front of the line and shit. So he was in my cell looking at my wife's picture. So one day, I'm walking past and shit. He like, Thornton, you know what I mean? He said, man, I got a question, man, a serious question. I'm like, what's up, man? He say, no disrespect, but he said, listen, man, I went to college. I got a bachelor's. I got a good job. He say, man, but the women I see in the visitor room coming to visit y'all, some of y'all, homie, how do y'all do it, man? He like, dude, I done did everything right, man. I don't have no woman. I mean, he really broke down what he was saying. And I gave it back to him wrong. Dude, you too nice.
You have no game, maybe.
None whatsoever. You know what I mean? But my point is, you have these CEOs like him run across these females and shit and fall in love with them just based on, because the females is interacting with you now, they interacting with you. They gaming you up as well. You know what I mean? And baby, I want to really be with you. And some of them, or one of them, or two of them might be serious. Like, shit, if I can get out and this dude take care of me, shit. You get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, Alan, some of these dudes really could have fell for some of these females and shit went down like that, man.
Well, we'll find out who MR is in due time, and the rest of these guys from from Dublin, they're all going to be doing some time in federal prison. As I said, Ross Klinger, who was telling these females he was going to marry them, he already pled guilty, so he's going to prison soon.
You think prison?
Yeah. Well, you think he could get probation?
Hell yeah, I don't think they gonna send
Is
them
that
dudes
right?
to prison. Hell no, I don't think they going to prison.
No, I think Ross Klinger has definitely got to do a little bit of time,
And
man.
they only charged him with sexual assault and they only charged him with sexual assault.
Yeah, sexual assault. I'm sure he broke so many rules of the BOP. It's definitely deserved.
Rules and laws is two different things, man.
Yeah, definitely. But he definitely, I think he warrants at least a couple years in prison.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna keep my eye on that one.
Yeah, you was in there. You was gaming a whole bunch of females in there, and you can find you some free women out there. But hey, I mean, it's impossible to know the dynamics unless this guy ever does an interview or writes a book.
No doubt,
what
but
he
I
was
just
doing.
want, but he did plead guilty. So you pled
Yeah.
guilty to something. You know what I mean? You pled guilty to something, and for him to plead guilty, not take it to trial, and I'm trying to see what kind of deal you got.
Look, I just scrolled down to the bottom of this article. MR, the girl who's filing the lawsuit, it says she was just released from FCI Dublin and now lives in Thermal, California.
Damn, I just delivered some gas and thermal.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So she's definitely pursuing this case as a free person. So
I'm gonna bump into her at the gas station. I'm gonna ask her to come do her interview on Streets of Scholars. Man. Tell us what really went on and shit.
well, yeah, well, I'm sure her lawyer's gonna say you are not to make any comments.
No doubt.
All right. I wanted to talk about this quote unquote scandal at a prison where you did some time at, man. We got prison topics today, but there's an Instagram page that was created called Good Verbal, GOODVERBAL, and it is alleged to be an Instagram page run by a CO at Victorville Prison.
Man, that's wild because I looked at the page, man. There's a lot of wild stuff on there, but I'm wondering, being that it's out public like that, how Instagram and somebody else having when did they due diligence? They make regular people show their identity and find out who runs this page. I'm surprised that they didn't do the same for this one.
Well, I mean, you could do.
Because this page is still up.
Yeah, the page is currently up. Apparently, some people from inside Victorville have exposed that this account is being ran by a CO at Victorville or multiple COs. And there was a brother named Curtis Freeman that did an interview on Roland Martin, and he believes that the page is racist and it's misogynistic and it's offensive. And I can see where some people might go there, but I went through, I mean, there's over 200 posts. I didn't get to watch all 200 posts on this account, but some of it is just clowning.
Well, you know, man, I got people I see on Instagram regularly who page is way more offensive than what I saw on there. Like you said, I didn't look at all 200.
Yeah.
The ones I did look at, like you said, they clowning, they talking a little shit. They may be a little biased on some of they posts, but I didn't see racist though. I didn't see racist, you know.
Yeah, well, we probably got to go scrutinize the account more and go through all 200 posts because all it takes is one post to be categorized as such.
Well, I seen some that could have been a little derogatory towards women. You know what I mean? But like I said, it wasn't over the top to where it's nothing. Maybe I just see this shit so much on Instagram and TikTok and some of these social media platforms that it don't just alarm me. It just nothing stood out so far that made me be like, oh, this is so wrong. You get what I'm saying? But I didn't look at all 200 of them.
Well, one of the posts that really caught my attention was complaining. This person is complaining about the salary that BOPCOs get. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's at the lower tier of COs in other states. I guess federal BOPCOs make less money than state COs do.
No doubt they do, you know, but at the same time, you know, for one, they ain't doing shit. But for two, they still in harm's way a little bit, you know what I mean? And so if you pay them more, they would stop taking bribes and shit, you know, start bringing in weed and tobacco to offset their income. You know, I know the federal, y'all ain't figured that out yet?
Well, it says here a correctional officer from the BOP starts at $27,000 or $29,000. That's not really a great salary.
Not at all. You know what I mean? My son, my 19-year-old might make that right now.
And I know the COs at the CDC, they're making like $50,000, $60,000 a year. They're making almost double what a BOPCO is making.
No doubt, but it's like you say, it's super physical over there in the state. They probably do a lot more work, but
it must be easy to be a CO at a federal camp, huh?
Oh, it's easy to be a CO. I think, me personally, I think it's easy to be a CO, period. And because some of the people you see come in there, you could tell that they never had a real job before. You could tell how they dress and how they act that this their first real job. You know, they don't even know how to conduct themselves in a certain manner. They have to learn how to conduct themselves in a manner, you know, to be CO-ish. You know what I mean? You know, and then you get a lot of people fresh out the military. You know what I mean? Who they first job go to be a CO, and let me just get a job, you know, doing something. You know, I was MP, maybe in the Army. Let me go be a CO. But then when you see that they ain't making shit, Alex, let me tell you about how, you know, the pay affects the COs at the federal, some of these federal institutions. They come in wanting to uphold high standards for their job. 6 months later, they can give a damn about what you got in your cell if you ain't bringing it out, messing with nobody or doing this or that. I don't give a damn. I only want to write a report. They don't pay me enough to write you up for having this. You know what I mean? You know, so it is good for the inmates. You know what I mean? But at the same time, who wants a staff who's not going to work hard based on, you don't pay me to do that. You don't pay me enough to be doing all that. Somebody up in the, I hear somebody up in the cell fighting. If I don't see nobody come out that cell with no blood and I'm gonna act like I didn't hear shit.
Yeah.
Because this finna cause me to be writing reports, locking shit up, doing triple work when y'all don't pay me for this shit.
So you've seen CEOs kind of just say, just let stuff go.
Shit, yeah, man. If you don't knock it off, man, you know what I mean. I seen CEOs do it all, man. I done seen CEOs, man. I remember one time a CEO, me and the homie from Pasadena Lanes, we in the cell drinking. You know what I mean? You going to the hole, you get caught with this drink. You know, this super illegal. You know what I mean? So when we in my cell drinking, and we hear the keys. You know what I mean? See, some CEOs, Alex, make sure that their keys is on their side.
So you hear them coming, huh?
You know, respect when I come through.
Yeah.
Don't have shit out when I come through. And we good. You know what I mean? Some of them new ones, they gonna hide their keys because they trying to catch you and shit. It's gonna take them some months when they get to can't go home on time and shit. They wife fuss. Oh, I had to write this report for this dude had an onion. You know what I mean? And they gonna be like, hold the fuck on. You know, man, I done had shit. So CO come by and shit. We done stashed a drink on the side. We just sitting there like we playing chess. You know what I mean? She walked by. We pick up our cup of drink, start back drinking. She had doubled back and looked in the door and opened the door. You know what I mean? And when she opened the door, you could smell this shit loud. You know what I mean? And she like, what y'all in here doing? We like, nothing. Like some kids, right? Nothing. But we got our drink in our hand. We can't even hide it no more. You know what I mean? She's like, nothing. Close the door, Alex. Pushed on about her motherfucking business. That same CEO 6 months before that, I would have called the lieutenants and everybody else, you know, but taking us to jail for this drink when we not doing nothing at all, but in this cell chilling. Gonna cost you so much time, paperwork, and all kind of. It ain't worth it for the CO. You know what I mean? You know, and not to mention, what if when I got out the hole, I wanted to come back and stab your ass for taking me to? I mean, you know, it's dynamics to this prison shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's based on the individual situation. And I know Thornton not finna trip out. I know he ain't finna say a motherfucking thing or nothing. I'm finna mind my business. He gonna mind his, and that's how prison works on some levels. But like I say, I don't believe they pay these people enough for them to be trying to be in charge private eye or something, you know, opposed to just doing their job. Nobody killing, nobody stabbing, nobody fighting, nobody. I'm gonna mind my business.
Well, they shouldn't even have some of these rules in the first place. You should be able to make some Pruno in your cell and sip on it without breaking the rule.
Well, you know, you got to realize that some of these dudes in here got life sentence, man. Some of these dudes got 30 years. You know, what you going to take me to the hole for a minute or take a dude to the hole with 30 years and let him back out in a month or so and that's not going to stop him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, but my point as far as the CEO is concerned, like I say, I do believe by them being underpaid, I believe they should make a lot more money for what they do. They put their life on the line in order to keep, you know, the stockholders' money in place. Because that, you know, I always know I look at prison like a investment for some of these shareholders. You know, y'all people are the one to keep our investment in place, and we don't want to pay y'all. You know, so I believe these guards should get paid more, man.
The highest paid CEOs in the United States are in the state of Hawaii. They make $60,000 a year. The lowest paid CEOs are in the state of Arkansas, $27,000 a year.
That's not enough money for me, man.
This is as of 2022, according to zipla.com.
Wow, that's crazy.
But the cost of living in Arkansas is a lot less too. So
yeah, but 27,000 to potentially put your life on the line, or be in a situation every day where somebody could flip out on you and you can be in harm's way. I just believe, I'm not knocking nobody who take the jobs to put food on their table or nothing like that. But at the same time, my standards got to be, much higher than that for that kind of situation. Put myself in that kind of situation.
And the hourly pay for the average CO is $18 an hour. That's just slightly above minimum wage in the state of California. I think minimum wage is 15.
Right. So now you can see why some of these inmates that's over here working at these female prisons is more like nah, y'all ain't paying me enough. You know what I mean? I'm finna knock something down. Y'all owe me something.
You called them inmates, but you meant COs.
Yeah, COs. That's what I meant, bro.
Yeah. $18 an hour is not a whole lot for a full-time job. But I didn't really find anything super crazy about that Instagram page. But I gotta say that I haven't looked at all 200 of his posts, his or her posts. But I do think it's a little unprofessional to be a CO. I think of a CO as a police officer, even though you're way below a police officer.
Right.
But I think of him as a cop, and I expect cops to have a certain standard of how they conduct themselves. And the Instagram page is, I guess, immature to say the least.
No doubt, but see, I look at COs as different because I done seen so many of them, and a lot of them I believe was just somebody who happened to have a good background, man, that couldn't get a job somewhere else, man, and signed up and they passed the background check, they passed the drug test, you know what I mean? And some of them, like I say, you can see because some of the intellect that some of them has, you know what I mean? You could just basically tell, so. I'm not knocking them, but I don't look at a CO to that standard. I do think they should get paid more because I just think people in America should be paid more. Since stuff is so high, I just believe the wage should be so much higher just based on the cost of living, especially in California. So, like I said, I'm not riding with them. I'm just saying, when you pay a person at a low standard, how much do you expect out of them?
Yeah, I think that most of them look at it as just a entry into law enforcement. Go do this 2 or 3 years here. When you were in Victorville, well, a lot of times you got moved around, so you didn't get to see what the turnover was and how long did the CO last. Like you were probably sitting in there longer than the CO, right? Because they don't last long at the job.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what they do and what you do as a how the correctional situation work as far as employment. I've seen people come in. At a group of COs come in at the same time. This guy happened to have a bachelor's degree. He's eligible to go be a counselor. Counselor make much more money. So your whole thing is, I'm just trying to be a CO until a counselor spot open. When they build a new prison, guess what? They need a whole new staff. So what people do is go to a prison somewhere in a rural area just to get the title. Case manager, unit manager, you know what I mean, lieutenant. They go get the title at this prison somewhere in the middle of nowhere, rent a house in that town, stay there a year. Now I'm a lieutenant no matter where I go. So now I can move around to, I knew a CEO that she was cool as a fan, man. She didn't play. She used to work in the shoe too. Female. She was tough on me, you know what I mean? But she was cool, So when we go to the hole, we talking shit. I'm talking shit. Bam, man. She was talking shit back. You know what I mean? She ended up, when I left Victorville, I went to Lompoc. I didn't see her again till about 4 years later. She was a lieutenant when I ran into her again. And I was happy to see that she had grew in her job. She took advantage, from what I hear, she had to go do some time on a, Midwest somewhere to get the promotion, a new spot open in the Midwest somewhere. Nobody wanted to move there. She got the lieutenant job. But once she was a lieutenant anywhere now. So that's what they do, in order to grow and get money. But if you just want to sit there and sit at this one spot and just be a CO, yeah, that might not happen. You know what I mean? But it is room for growth at these prisons, and these people do move around. I have seen regular COs go to different positions. It was a dude who was they called a SIS. It's basically the gang task force. They the investigative team inside the prison. They're investigating everything going wrong, and they can also investigate other the COs. You know what I mean? So one of the dudes who was a SIS, I was always on it, going to the hole doing shit. So they knew me personally. He ended up becoming my case manager. Your case manager is in charge for your case. You know everything about your case. He puts you in for transfers. He do everything for you to get home, get more halfway house, do all this certain stuff. This dude went from trying to take me down every time he can to my case manager. He said, listen, hold on. When that was my position over there, that was my position over here. I'm your case man. Anything you need, bro, come let me know. If it's fair, I'll do it. You know what I mean? So he moved up, stopped being, chasing criminals around the prison to being a case manager. And this is how they move up. But for the people who don't have the intellect to want to go do better, you're going to be stuck at $27, $30 an hour, $18 an hour as a CO. You know what I mean? So I don't look at him as nobody but a person with a job, to be honest with you.
So there's a way to finesse the system to your benefit and get the promotions and get the transfers and start to earn better money over time.
Right.
But if you're just staying as a CO,
you're gonna be at that stuck.
It's a dead end job.
It's a dead end job. Man.
Yeah. Well, I want to encourage any of the Streets and Scholars listeners to check out this Instagram page that's supposedly done by a CO at Victorville. It's called Good Verbal, and let us know if there's any posts on this account that is offensive, that's disrespectful, is racist. I did notice that one of his followers, this person's following Fox News, and we know Fox News is super conservative, so they definitely have a conservative bent. But tap in with us and let us know. And we got another topic, but we're gonna save it for next week, man. And I know you're gonna love talking about this topic next week. I'll just give them a sneak peek at it, but we're going to talk about this Orange County snitch program scandal, which is the Orange County is the next county south of Los Angeles, and they had a big snitch program where they were using informants inside the jail to get other inmates who were arrested to confess to them about crimes that they allegedly committed. And it's just the FBI just put out a report saying this whole snitch program was it was terrible.
Yeah. So the FBI is on them right now.
Yeah, the FBI is on them, and I always trip that the FBI be exposing all of the local corruption that happens, whether it's L.A. or Orange County. But my question is, who investigates the FBI? When do we know when the FBI is stepping out?
Doing some misconduct.
Yeah, and we really don't. There's no entity that's investigating the FBI because they're kind of at the top of the food chain when it comes to law enforcement. But we're gonna wrap this episode of Streets and Scholars, man. Any last words for the listeners?
No, one thing about it, I know our listeners are thorough, man. So I know they're gonna go to that. You say Good Verbal at Instagram, and I know they're gonna come back with some feedback on what's going on over there. Like I said, I seen a couple of them that were, like I say, maybe a little offensive towards women, but I want to get everybody aspect on what they see from it and see if we tripping or is there really something going on over there.
Yeah, because Roland Martin did a big old story on his show, Roland Martin Unfiltered, and he's characterizing as this account as racist, misogynistic, and offensive, and it might be. I just didn't find any posts that met that standard for me personally.
Right.
So, all right, we're going to tap out now on another episode of Streets and Scholars, F General 1 at Instagram, and you're going to be dropping some new stuff on FG Unleashed,
right?
No
doubt. Tap in with FG Unleashed, man. I got some new stuff going to be on there, so hey, let's rock and roll.
And tap in with me at my Street TV YouTube channel. I'm going to be posting a whole bunch of stuff there in the next week. And Alex Alonso 101. Please tap in with me whether you're on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Alex Alonso 101. And thanks for listening to another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.